much the same stuff that we've talked about, right? The insides river valley and how the river valley is moved as sea level changes. So here we can see, right, 100,000 years ago, sea level was much higher. So where the star is, that's the city of Mobile, right? You're going to learn, if you take historical, it's awesome, right? Every 100,000 years we go through a glacial cycle, right? So right now we're kind of dead in between glacial cycles, right, where things are going to warm up, right, before we start to get really cold again. So here, right, we've got high sea levels. Okay, so Mobile was drowned. So that means, right, what we're now setting up for is that incised river valley. So here, right, 15,000 years ago, glaciers got really, really big. Sea level dropped massively. When sea level dropped, we're going to expose all of that soft sediment. So what's going to happen is as the Mobile River flows down there, it's going to cut through that soft sediment really, really easy. The same processes that are forming this incised river valley is the same process that made the Grand Canyon, to give you an idea, right? Just rivers just cutting through all that soft sediment. So it's cut through this, of course it's going to start down here, right? And work its way back, right? And cut its way into the continent. Again, it's following that resistant rock. So you can tell right here where it's cut, where it's not hasn't cut into, that's where that edge of that really resistant limestone is, right? That's that kind of capping. So again, right, remember, if sea levels were to rise, this would just continue to cut back, right? And of course, this is what's going to be happening currently, right? Sea levels rising, this is going to move backwards. So again, to give you a good idea, right, of where we are, right, remember on that other picture I showed you, it said Lanyap Delta, right? This is where it was, all the way out here when sea level was low. When sea level's low, we gain land, right? Sea level drops, we have more land. So that delta, this bay, was all the way out here. So as sea level has risen, you see how it's just cut its way back into the continent. So as sea level continues to rise, it's just going to keep doing that same thing. Does that make sense? I like it when I make sense. Okay, good. All right. So if we look here, this is an actual picture of the delta, of the bay. And you can see here, right, here's the Gulf, nice dark waters. And this is all white in here. You can see how this comes out. That's not pollution, that's not ickiness, that's sediment. That's a river doing its job, right? Now, of course, right, we have an awesome river at home that does its job, the Mississippi. Right, what's the nickname for the Mississippi? The big what? Yeah, the big muddy, or the muddy Mississippi. There's a reason why it's brown. It's not just from all the pollution. There is a lot of pollution in the Mississippi, but it's mainly from the sediment. That river does its job. It literally moves over a ton of sediment a day. A ton. That is a lot of sediment that gets brought down through where we are a day. So of course it's going to be dirty looking, right? Because it's doing its job. Same thing here, you can see it. So there's that Bayhead Delta that we drove over, supplying all that sediment. So here's Dauphin Island, right? This is where we are. We're on this westernmost edge. You can see that opening I told you, right? So the sediment has a couple choices here. The sediment's either going to move this way on the interior, or it's going to come out, and you can see because of the Gulf Stream, it's going to push it in this direction, right? So we're going to see when we make our next stop, which is our last stop, so you won't have to be in the heat too much longer, right? We're going to see how that sediment actually moves down these islands to help support them and make them grow, right, and be very, very healthy. Does this sound good so far? Okay. We're going to come right down here where that big picture is on the wall. We're going to stop and talk for another few minutes. And then I'll let you go animal crazy. Charge. Fishy. Might as well, right? Itself is pretty old, but it gives you the same idea. So there we are, the big bulbous part of the island, that's the eastern part of the island. So you can see that's very, very stable, right? That's where we have that limestone that's outcropping, that's just essentially collecting the sediment, right, around it, keeping it nice and stable. So like I said, we're going to see that this, what we call the western spit of the island, is just a conveyor belt of sand, as the sand moves down there. The sand will just continue to move down. It gets stuck a little bit down there where the bulbous part is until it gets picked up by the Gulf Stream and essentially gets carried on to the next island. Right? That's essentially how it works. So how did this start to form? Well, you can take a good picture here of this progression. So 15,000 15,000 years ago, remember we were in a glacial cycle. You guys can scoot over this way if you want to see. So 15,000 years ago, we were in a glacial cycle, right? The glacier was really big, sea level, okay, was really low. Where this line is, that's where sea level is today, to give you an idea of how low sea level was during glacial maximums. So essentially what we've got is right in here, we've got that really resistant rock that's buried underneath. As that water starts to wash in, right, when sea level starts to rise, it's going to carve out all that soft sediment that's hanging out there. Except for, right, essentially I pretend this is it, right, this nice big resistant material. So it's going to wash out all that soft sediment around it except for this big hard stuff. And that's what's going to remain. And essentially what's going to happen is that's what we've got here, right, this progression. That hard stuff starts to get exposed and all of your corals, all of your bigger sediments are going to be attracted to it and get stuck there. And that's essentially what's going to help build it up. So essentially at the core of all of your barrier islands, you're going to have some resistant rock, right, that's at that core that's helping keep all that together. So again, right, remember you can tell, well, let's see if you remember. How did I tell you at the last stop, you can tell whether the ground is stable or not? Pine trees. If you look at that, you should see a lot of green over there. On the big bulbous part, do you see a lot of green down here? No, because that's your conveyor belt. That area is not stable at all. And you can see how not stable it is, right? Katrina, that picture, well, obviously it's 2005, not 2009. Right, but you can see there, right? Katrina came through, broke the island right in half. Now, you think the island's still broken? No. Do you think we had to help it? No, because this is a healthy barrier island system. You saw in that last picture how much sediment is funneling down through there, right? So it funnels through and it gets washed around, and this island can repair itself in just a matter of weeks. This cut didn't even last 2 months. Okay, these islands repair themselves quickly. This is what makes for a very healthy barrier island. A healthy barrier island needs sediment. When you start starving it of sediment, it can't repair itself and damages happen. This is the problem we have on our coastline. We have starved our coast of sediment. Why? Because we're forcing the Mississippi River to go in one direction and one direction only. We're not letting the Mississippi move around and build up sediment, move over here and build up sediment, move over here. We're not letting it do that. We're starving our coastline. That's why we lose a football field every 45 minutes. You've heard that, right? That's why we lose that much, okay? Because it's really our fault. Nobody else is to blame but ours, right? So this is what a healthy system looks like. Okay? Now again, barrier islands are important because they slow down storm surge. And the way it happens is actually pretty cool. We've modeled something like this in Lake Pontchartrain. So you've all gone to Lake Pontchartrain, you sit there and eat your lunch, right? You sit on those stair steps. Well, those stair steps aren't there just for you to sit and have a nice lunch. They're there for a reason. Okay, that wall breaks the tides up really, really well. So if instead of the stair steps we had a flat wall like this, a wave would come straight in and bounce right back out with the same amount of energy. If you've got stair steps, that wave comes in and hits it at different angles, bounces off at different angles, and it dissipates the energy. A barrier island acts the same way. Okay, you can see it's not completely straight. It's going to have a slope to it. So the water, right, those storm surges are going to hit it at different angles. The waves are going to bounce off, and it's going to slow down that energy. Even if the tidal wave washes over, okay, a lot of times during hurricanes, you can't even see the western part of the island. It's underwater. It's still high enough that it's slowing down the wave energy. This is why barrier islands are incredibly important. Okay, I know my students, you guys don't get the benefit of hearing me go on and on about this stuff in class. But essentially, right, we're losing a lot of land in Louisiana, an immense amount of land. Some of you guys on my Wikispace should be tired of seeing those damn plantings that I post up all the time for you guys to do, right? It's important to try to help save stuff, okay? Why? You could essentially, if you weren't taking a road, if you could just fly a plane from New Orleans to the Gulf of Mexico, guess how much solid land we have left? It's about 5 miles. That's about it. The Gulf of Mexico is right there. That's how close it is. Okay? As the crow flies, dangerously close. Okay? That's why things like this, keeping our barrier islands healthy, is important. Now, we've dammed up the river. We can't really do much at this point without destroying a lot of human lives. Not human lives, but houses and things like that. Okay? Things that we can do, right? Of course, we can plant to help save the coastline, right? Kind of have those roots go into the ground, help make it more stable. Other programs that we can do, there are places that will take your glass. You recycle in New Orleans, can't recycle glass. There are places that will take your glass and they turn that into sand. So that's essentially all sand is, it's just quartz. Remember that from minerals, right? It's just quartz, right? Well, they can take that, I said hopefully. Hopefully, I saw that look.
I'm giving them eyebrows.
They can take that sand and dump that out. If they could come out, right, with giant truckfuls of sand, dump it on the eastern side of the island, it's going to work its way down the island, just like normal sand would, and help it grow. Now, of course, we have to constantly supply our sand then at that point, right? But these are all steps that we can take to kind of help remediate the damage that we've done. But obviously, barrier islands, I hope you can tell, are extremely important. So how do we feel about this? Feel good? Okay, so it's 3:15. Tomorrow we take like half hour, so 45 minutes. It's not that big. About a half hour, 45 minutes. I want you to look through here. There's really lots of cool stuff. These are all native species around here, native species in the water. You can find very similar stuff off the coast of Louisiana. So take a look. We'll meet back up outside when everybody seems to be outside. We just have one more stop to make. What we're going to do is we're going to walk from the stable part of the island out to the beach. That sounds like a hugely long walk. Like I said, it's an island. It's not that far of a walk. You can't walk very far until you hit water. It's maybe a half a mile. Maybe. It's probably more like a quarter. It's not very long. I know I'm making you do exercise. Oh my God. So, right, that's going to be our last stop so that we can kind of see the progression from stable to unstable. And that'll be it for today. You feel good? Yay, geology?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't sound so excited.
Don't live on barrier islands.